Hello, viewers. I am Mr. Dilip Kumar Pal. Stands before you with a very important video on the topic causes of the fading or decline of state sovereignty, which is found in the paper Global Politics of the paper number 10 of the 4th semester. So today's video relates with the causes of fading or decline of state sovereignty, or to make it more clear, how day by day states are becoming weaker and weaker. And this topic, causes of the fading or declining states' power or state sovereignty, is observed in paper number 10, which is Global Politics, in the 4th semester. So, viewers, I request you to watch this video attentively till the end, and in course of watching, write down your notes, so the problem of your notes will be over. And this video gives you a lot of informations and data relating to factors for declining power of the state. Let us start. What factors were responsible for declining power of state, or factor responsible for fading state sovereignty? Let us start. The world is a changing world. What is now, it may not be in the next moment. As the world is a changing world, everything is changing. There was a time when states were powerful. So once Palmer and Parkin said, nations are political basis or political framework of international life. It means once Palmer and Parkin said, nations are very much important for the international system. So, in the Peace Treaty of Westphalia, which was signed at Osnabrück in Germany, 1648, it was mentioned in the Peace Treaty that states were master in their territory. No state will interfere, or no nation will interfere in the affairs of other nations. And in the Montevideo, which is in Uruguay, 1933, there was a convention where it was mentioned that states are independent political entity. If they have population, fixed area, government and sovereignty, they are nation. They are supreme within their territory. So there was a time when states were powerful. But with the lapse of time, due to some factors, states were losing their power. They became so much weak that once Robert Strauss Hughes says, nations are in sunset period. And in another occasion, John Horth says, technological innovations of post-war has made nation state valueless. So, once upon a time, states were powerful, but with the lapse of time, they lost their power. For losing their power, they become weak. For this, there are mainly 5 factors are responsible which we'll discuss in this video. The first factor which is responsible for weakening the state is the economic globalization. The first factor which is responsible to make state weak is the economic globalization. Economic globalization includes production, distribution, management, trade and finance. Economic globalization means there was a time when every state has a national market. But with the economic globalization, the national market of every country is interconnected with the international market. Now, entire world has become one global market. Nowadays, nations do not have any national market. All national markets of different countries are connected with the global market. And due to this reason, states have lost much of their power, they have become weak. And with the lapse of time, multinational companies were established in different nations. When multinational companies who are known for their advanced technologies, they are established in different nations, government organizations were unable to compete with them. So government organizations became weak and they were unable to function. So in different countries, multinational companies have been established over whom state will not have any control. Again, corporate alliances. Different companies of a country have formed alliances with foreign companies over whom state will not have any control. Again, FDI. Foreign companies, foreign direct investment, foreign companies, foreign countries have made investment in different nations. So over them, when foreign governments or foreign companies made investment in different nations, definitely nations will not have any voice over them. Then, so there is shift from state to farm. Again, prototype transaction. Different rich persons of foreign countries, they were known as foreigners. They are also making investment in different nations. Then high-speed communication, development of high-speed communication, information of one country immediately moved to other nations. So, by these factors, states have become weak. They are all economic globalization. Again, massive international financial flow. Foreign capitals entered into the country. Foreign capitals were invested in the country. Then intra-trade industry. Every country exports different nations. Every country exports different things to other country and imports different things from other country. It is known as intra-trade industry. For example, Britain is exporting cars. Again, it is importing cars. So, it has also reduced the power of the state. Then, rapid spread of technology, ideas, capital, transport system, communication system. Rapid spread of ideas, technology, transport system, communication system have made the state weaker. Again, if the state has become weaker, state have a less control. State will not have any control on 3 things. One is regulatory goods, distributive goods and redistributive goods. Regulatory goods means there was a time when the state had control over some goods. But with economic globalization, state takes no interest to regulate goods. Number two, distributing goods. Sometimes in the past state was distributing goods for people. By economic globalization, state took no interest for distribution of goods because it became weak. Again, redistributing goods. Redistributing goods means state previously was collecting goods, again it was distributing. It is known as redistributing goods. So, as state became weak, state was not taking interest over distributing goods, redistributing goods, and the regulatory goods. So the first factor who is responsible to make state weak is the economic globalization. Okay, viewers, be attentive. Number two, political globalization. Political globalization means day by day different organizations interfere in the affairs of the state. Political globalization means day by day different organizations started to interfere in the internal affairs of a nation. By this, state has become again weak. For example, active role of IMF, World Bank, UNO and IPU, International Postal Union. International organizations like UNO, IMF, World Bank, International Postal Union, they started to interfere in the internal affairs of the state. Again, NGOs, intergovernmental organizations, different type of non-governmental organizations of international level, intergovernmental organizations, they also started to interfere. They were also interfering in the affairs of the state. Number three, international pressure groups. There are some international pressure groups. They are also interfering in the affairs of the state. Then regional organizations. There are also various regional organizations. They also interfere in the affairs of the state. Again, so due to interferences of different organizations in the internal affairs of state has become weak. And here we can take the example of European Union, European Economic Union, which is in Europe. It has full control over the European nations. European nations, in order to compete with Japan and America, they have formed European Economic Union. So what European Economic Union will say to European nations will have to carry it out. So different organizations different organizations are interfering in the affairs of state. It is another factor for making state weak. The third important thing is the military or security globalization. Military or security globalization means there was a time when every state was thinking that deployment of armed forces is only means of their security. There was a time when nations were realizing that if they will deploy armed forces in their border, they are secure. This is national security. But now, in place of national security, international security has come up. Environmental issues like global warming, acid rain, ozone layer, they have come up, on which a state will have no control. So now, in place of national security, international security has come up. So a state will have to obey rules of international organizations relating to environmental issues. Again, the state has no control. The state has no control over non-physical security. Means taking away data from the computer by non-state and state actor. Again, nowadays, different organizations, different nations are taking away data from the computer of their enemy nations, and the state will have no control. So states are becoming weak day by day because due to some international issues. To face international issues, a nation will have to carry out the instructions of international organizations. For example, acid rain, global warming, deposit of more carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, depletion of ozone layer. For these issues, a state will have to carry out the directions of international organizations, because by these issues entire world will be affected. So it is another factor which make state weaker. Finally, impacts on military bloc. Again, impacts of military bloc like NATO and Warsaw. Again, different regional organizations also are interfering in the internal affairs of different nations, like NATO and SEATO. They are also interfering in different nations' affairs. So it is another factor which we have included in the column, in the heading of military and security globalization. Then another factor is impact on democratic decision making. There was a time when nations were taking their own decisions, but due to some factors, now nations are unable to take independent decisions. There are many factors. For example, impact of IMF, which is giving money on the basis of structural development program. Now, IMF is giving financial help to different nations on some conditions. Again, IMF is giving loan to different nations for development, for trade on some conditions. A state will have to fulfill their condition, otherwise IMF will not give loan. So by these impacts, again there is impact of World Bank on nations. So due to impacts of international monetary agencies like IMF, World Bank, nations are unable to take independent decisions because they want money. They will have to carry out the instruction of international monetary agencies. So now nations are unable to take independent decision. So it is impact of foreign monetary agencies. By the impact of foreign international agencies, by the impact of foreign monetary agencies, now states are unable to take independent decisions. Finally, ethnic resurgence. In different nations, there are ethnic groups, and they have impact on the nations. Now, in different nations, there are powerful ethnic groups. They have impact on the country. And sometimes nations are carrying out their order. Sometimes nations are going their head before these ethnic groups. For example, due to a powerful ethnic group, Soviet Union was fragmented into 15 pieces because some ethnic groups, they feel that their cultural identity, their economic prosperity can be achieved if they will be separated from a country. So for the cultural identity and economic prosperity, many states broke away from Soviet Union. And number two, sometimes different races in a country, for their development, wanted a different nation for them. And the best example is Yugoslavia. Sometimes in different nations, sometimes different races, for their development, for their prosperity, They want to form a separate nation. So Yugoslavia, for this reason, formed a separate country. Again, in India also, Dalits, they were making protests from time to time for more facilities. So, states are becoming weak because within states, there are some ethnic groups which are putting pressure on state to carry out their demands. So, there was a time when states were very powerful, but nowadays states have become weak. Their powers are fading away. Their powers are declining due to many factors we have discussed. Number one is economic globalization. Number two is political globalization. Number three is military or security globalization. Military and security globalization. Number four, impact on democratic decision-making process of the state. Then finally, resurgence of ethnic groups. So there was a time when states were very powerful. Now sovereignty of state have become weak. So in this video we have discussed factors responsible for the declining power of state or fading away the power of state in detail. I request my viewers to watch this video attentively and write down your notes so that you will be benefited. Again, I request you to advise your friends to subscribe my channel so that students of all level will be benefited. Thank you. Request you again to make best use of this video. There will be no need for you to refer any books. Thank you. Goodbye to all.